10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Stage 1 chamber pressures are nominal.
The vehicle is pitching downrange.
We're now 30 seconds into flight on the Falcon 9. All engines are running at full power. We are preparing to enter through our first major milestone after liftoff, max Q. It's going to occur at T plus 1 minute 12 seconds. We're going to throttle those engines down. We've confirmed nominal status from the avionics team. Next, max Q. That's when the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of dynamic pressure. We throttle those engines down, and afterwards we throttle them back up to keep dynamic pressures below a certain level.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. Max Q.
We've successfully crossed the max Q threshold. Everything is looking good with the first stage's trajectory. Next, we're going to start our MVAC chill. This is going to help us prepare for the next 3 major events. They occur one after another. The first one, those 9 Merlin 1D engines are going to cut off. That's known as MECO, or main engine cutoff. Right after that, the first and second stage will separate, and then the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will turn on. That's known as SES-1. About 15 seconds away from throttling down those Merlin 1D engines, you'll start to see that visual change and that plume you see on the screen.
Main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
All right, all good news here. We had successful main engine cutoff, stage separation, and second engine start 1. Our next milestone is fairing deployment. Those 2 fairing halves on the top of the second stage are no longer needed, and we'll jettison them to help expose the TurkSat 5A satellite to space and attempt to recover those later on.
Second stage is on a nominal trajectory. Fairing separation confirmed.
And you saw there, we just jettisoned our 2 fairing halves. It's our first good view of TurkSat 5A. It's now exposed to space, and those 2 fairing halves are heading back down to sea level. For those of you just joining, we're 4 minutes into flight on today's mission of carrying the TurkSat 5A satellite to its intended orbit on the Falcon 9. We're currently in the first of 2 planned MVAC burns. That's what you see on your screen currently. Not pictured here currently, but that's after stage separation. The first stage, we're attempting to recover it. Its velocity at separation was about 2,200 meters per second, or 5,000 miles per hour. Once the separation occurs, the first stage is still moving at such a high velocity, it continues to raise its altitude as it approaches its apogee, and then it will coast down a couple minutes before it starts its return back to Earth. Up next, what you'll hopefully see is the first stage's entry burn. This is the first major milestone for first stage recovery. For entry burn, we're going to relight the center of those 9 Merlin engines. It's actually engine number 9. And partway through this transition, we then ignite 2 more engines, engine 1 and engine 5, which means we have 3 total M1D engines helping slow down the vehicle as it passes into the Earth's increasingly thickening atmosphere. That burn will last about 30 seconds, and we're just about a minute away from that. And also not pictured here, those 2 fairing halves are making their way down. It'll take a lot longer than it will for the first stage, but we will attempt to recover those later on in the evening.
Expected loss of signal, Cape.
First stage is now less than 100 kilometers above sea level, continuing to make its way down. Just 10 seconds away from entry burn. As you watch this here, watch that exhaust expand as it goes from 1 engine to 3 engines. It'll sort of elongate.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Entry burn has begun. All 3 engines are running currently.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
You heard it, you saw it. Entry burn has shut down. Next, a couple milestones happening back to back. On the second stage on your screen, we're going to turn off that MVAC engine. It's known as SECO 1, or second engine cutoff 1. And right after that milestone, we're going to start our final first stage burn, the landing burn, hopefully culminating with a 4th landing of this particular first stage. Going back to SECO, we shut down the MVAC, and after that period, we actually allow the second stage to coast. This event preserves the fuel until we need it for that final burn, second engine start number 2, and it takes us to our targeted orbit for today's satellite deploy. We're about 30 seconds away from SECO 1, and after that, only about 30 more seconds until we hopefully have a nice view of the first stage touching down on our Just Read the Instructions autonomous drone ship.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 landing burn, sorry.
Our landing burn has started. Our second engine is also cut off, as you can see. We're just awaiting confirmation of good orbital insertion. And back on sea level, you can see here the drone ship. We have confirmation of good orbit on the second stage, and looks like we have a good landing on the drone ship as well. This is SpaceX's 71st successful first stage recovery. This particular booster's 4th successful recovery, getting ready for its 5th flight in the future. That's our secondary mission, vehicle reusability, but our primary mission is not yet complete. The second stage vehicle has now entered its first coast phase and will last about 18 minutes. After that, we're going to light that MVAC engine for a second time shortly after at about T plus 26 minutes, 51 seconds. For those of you interested in keeping an eye on where that second stage is throughout the coast phase, you can follow along with our animation for the next 18 minutes. Otherwise, we'll see you back here at T plus 25 minutes. And as a reminder, the TurkSat 5A satellite is still attached to that second stage. The stage is now going to start a slow spin, kind of like a football, that helps stabilize the satellite when it's released. This transition is going to take 5 more minutes, and satellite separation is expected to occur at T plus 33 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, while we wait for the satellite to get closer to its final destination, we'll pause commentary during this coasting phase, but we'll come back just before stage 2 separation takes place at T plus 32 minutes. Welcome back again to our launch coverage of the TurkSat 5A mission. One quick note, we're actually not spinning the second stage of this mission, but unfortunately I can confirm we had a good orbit after our second engine start, which is great news. If you're just joining us, we have one more major milestone coming up in about 10 seconds. That's the deployment of the TurkSat 5A satellite.
Payload deploy confirmed.
And you can see it. We have confirmation of successful payload separation of the TurkSat 5A satellite, and that will now bring today's webcast coverage to a close. Before we go, we really want to thank Airbus, our customer, for entrusting us with the TurkSat 5A satellite. This mission marked the 4th launch and landing for this Falcon 9 booster. It was also SpaceX's 71st successful booster landing, as well as SpaceX's 50th time for flying a reflown booster. Also, it's our first launch for 2021. To the range and the FAA, we appreciate having your support and acceptance for today's mission. And to all of our viewers, as always, thank you for tuning in, and have a great evening.